Welcome once again to the Biz Life Podcast. We're coming to you live from the Small Business Education Program studios in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada. We're part of UNR Extension, and we're happy to be here with Carlos Gomez from the Latin Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos, for joining us today. And today is a big day. We're going to be talking about IT and all your small business questions regarding IT. And today we have David with us today. And David is from
Red Panda Systems.
Red Panda Systems. He is the head panda. Absolutely. So welcome, David. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm the head something.
Head something. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. I am one of the partners of Red Panda Systems. It is an IT cybersecurity company that we came together about 3 years ago as Red Panda Systems, and previously we had another company, but we decided to change the name. We provide IT, cybersecurity, audits, compliance, those kind of things for small businesses to medium size.
Excellent.
Las Vegas.
Well, now, in as far as small businesses go, most small business owners, I would say that IT is probably one of those areas where we're lacking in our small business community. They just don't know what they don't know. Unconsciously incompetent.
Right.
We wanted to be consciously incompetent to say, yeah, I know that I don't know anything. So
Yeah.
we need them to pick up the phone and call somebody like you to say, hey, I need some help. So what are some areas in small business that you see, because you interact with a lot of them, who's doing what right, and where are they dropping the ball?
Yeah, so first, I think IT has that stigma, right? It's considered an expense a lot of times. So one of the first tasks that we do is help clients, potential clients, friends, family. We help them understand really the importance, so they understand and can make an informed decision, right, on what they need, what they don't need, right? Because you could throw the whole book at them. You can give everything to people.
Sure.
Costs get out of control. So we try to remain cost conscious as well as we're providing solutions. A lot of people need a firewall, right? They need the protection on their desktops, on their workstations.
And what is a firewall?
So a
For
firewall,
those who don't understand what that
right.
is.
It is not a physical device that's on fire. It is a device that sits behind or sits next to and connects to the ISP. So Cox, CenturyLink, right? Those are your ISPs, and they provide what's called a modem, and that modem connects to a firewall.
Okay.
Right? So what that does is it allows people to connect to the internet safely or more secure than they possibly would. If you were connect to the modem directly, then you'd still get internet, right? But you're more susceptible to security issues.
Okay.
But if you have that firewall, it does all the filtering for you. It blocks everything down. And it locks everything down in a way that it only allows what you want to allow it.
Okay.
Right. So that's where an IT company, security company, is very important to understand what needs to be configured and to allow only what needs to be allowed. Because if you allow everything, then obviously you're more prone.
Interesting.
Yeah, because many people think the firewall only works for spam emails, but people don't realize business owners the importance on business accounts, checking accounts, transfers, things that those hackers can tap on it without any knowledge of the business owner because it's not protected. Am I correct?
Right. So a lot of those things you want to actually segregate out or separate out. A firewall will do a lot of those things. It depends on, obviously, the more you pay, the more you get, right? But a lot of those tasks you actually do want to separate out. You want to separate out spam filtering. You want to separate out antivirus and anti-malware and all those things. But a firewall can do that for you if you'd like, and it would protect everybody in one device.
Okay, so a firewall is your first line of defense, you would say.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
What else are people missing in general? Training. Okay.
Training. Yeah. So over 90% of security issues come down to human error, right? It doesn't mean on purpose, right? It just means that human error, and that comes down to training. If you don't train employees what to look for in an email, or if you see an attachment and it looks fishy, right? You shouldn't open it. Those come down to training. People just instinctively click on things without knowing what could be lying behind that file. So
it's true, because sometimes you had noticed from your bank or your funding company and things like that, but it's phishing because it's not the real email. It's something that has your information. Send that. This employee can not voluntary, but put the information like they are requesting, and that is the first step to lose money and many things.
Right. And then we're putting a lot of stress on employees to go to work. They just want to work, right? But if they're not trained, they don't know what to look for. They're just working throughout the day, never getting that training.
Exactly.
And this is getting worse, not better, right? You're going to get more phishing emails, more spam, and all that.
How about servers, like an email server or an actual server? How many of your small business clients like come to you and they're like, we don't know what we're doing. We just need a server, I think. Right.
Honestly, about 80% or more don't quite understand the term of a server.
Okay.
It can be complicated, right? So there's cloud servers and then there's physical servers.
Okay.
Physical server, it sits in your business. Cloud server sits in the cloud, right? This comes down to the importance of a firewall. If your firewall is set up properly, you can have a secure cloud connection and you get everything securely. Same thing can be said about in-house. You can have a physical device that does the same thing as the cloud. And what a server does is it's centralized management. It allows everything to be in one place. So you can control all the security and everything that you need, authentication, all those things that make sure that only the people who need access are getting that access.
Okay. Yeah. And then as far as backups go, is that done automatically when you install a server system? You set up a whole backup system?
Right. Yeah, we do. We do backup systems all the time. That's actually one of our biggest pushes, is helping people. It's disaster recovery, right? It's part of that process, or business impact analysis, right? Those all lie for backups. You should do backups. Everyone should do backups, right? Especially in this day and age of ransomware, everyone should have backups. Yeah. And a lot of people don't, and it becomes overwhelming. They don't know what to do.
Sure.
A lot of times they'll pick the easiest solution too, under the promise that it's easy, not realizing that it is easy for a reason, but it's missing a lot of things that you actually need to be backed up or not being backed up.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in. We help pinpoint what needs to be backed up, what should be backed up, what is being backed up, and how often, and how long you want to keep those files. Some people have compliance and they have to keep those files for a long time.
Yeah, let's talk about these compliance issues, because if you do any work in the medical business, or you're dealing with people's information, their credit,
authorities,
financial records,
right?
You have federal mandates that are there that you have to keep documents a certain amount of time. You have to keep archives and whatever else. That's perfect. That's what IT's about, right? Making sure that you're set up properly.
For sure. So we not only do the setup part of it, but you have to do the audit. You have to regularly check and make sure that people are still meeting those compliance. PCI, finance, right? HIPAA, medical, and PII. That should apply to everybody. That's the one that's forgotten. People don't realize that everything should be treated as sensitive.
As sensitive info.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. I think a benefit too of utilizing an IT company is you're able to take and integrate your systems together. Or maybe you don't even have a system at this point, but maybe you need key card access to your doors, right? Maybe you need access for people's time clocks to be able to clock in and out without having to physically write something down.
Right.
You can do all of this through an IT backend system.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So it helps to centralize, back to the server conversation along those lines. It helps to centralize everything. It makes it a lot easier to maintain, but a lot easier to control as well, and have your eyes on what needs to be controlled and what should have access to what.
And also to control users and passwords.
Correct.
Because sometimes you had the employee, he left, so you need to control the access to your system, changing those users and password.
Correct. Yeah, and it's not necessarily that we want to control everything, right? We want to help. Right? So it comes down to how can we help people? Because if you have separate systems for everything and they're not interconnected, you're going to spend a long time wondering what next well, I did that.
Yeah, what do we
part,
do at this point?
Yeah. But the doors still don't work. Oh, okay, let me go do the doors.
Yeah, and also many entrepreneurs they think that they have the regular Microsoft Office or Google Access or Google emails, and they believe they're safe because they believe in those companies. But how your company can integrate the systems, because even in the same company, you don't want access, human resources department, access to accounting information. So you need to separate those and get privileged access only to the people who need to know. But again, if I had the most common is Microsoft, but people believe they are secure. They are or they are not.
So that's kind of a two-part answer, right? The first part is if you sign up with Microsoft or Google, you can believe that you are secure, but that's also under the assumption that it was set up properly, right? But let's not forget that Microsoft and Google are in the business of sales as well. So internally with Microsoft and Google, yes, you're secure, right? But if it becomes between you at your office here in Las Vegas or wherever you may be and the cloud somewhere with Microsoft or Google, there's a lot that could be misconfigured or erroneously configured. And between that's where the mistakes lie,
right,
and how the data is handled between those providers. Once it's in Microsoft systems, Google systems, it's out of your control, right? So you have to do your best effort or follow through with them and realize that they are protecting it. They're doing their best. Yes. But once it gets to you, it's in your hands. You still have to do your responsible due diligence as well.
That's why we need companies like yours in order to be sure that our system is in place, is in compliance, and is secure.
Correct.
Well, I think in these times, our information, our data is everything. It could be customer information. It could be, you could be storing credit cards on file of companies, which you don't recommend for small business owners necessarily, right? Because that's a lot of responsibility onto that. I have a list of some terms here. I was going to go over a few with you.
You can.
We can play 20 questions. It'd be
You can.
good.
Yeah.
So tell us about endpoint security.
Okay.
So antivirus, anti-malware.
Right. So there's a difference, right? Most of us at home, we always say, do you have antivirus running on your machine? Yeah, you do. Right? A lot of us do, hopefully. Antivirus, and I don't want to overcomplicate this, right? So I will try to explain this as best as I can, but antivirus runs on people's workstations, and it uses something called heuristics, right? Numerical values. It does comparisons. It's kind of after the fact, right? So you could potentially still get infected.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get a little pop-up saying, hey, we found a malicious file. Well, by then it's already on your machine, right? It may have already run. And then there's the opposite of endpoint protection. There's something called EDR, right? And that is a real-time emergency detection. So before it gets to you, it blocks it from getting to you. So that's where it is more costly. It does cost more to do that. But that is the difference between those two for endpoint protection.
What's the difference between spam and phishing? A lot of people think they're kind of the same thing, but what's the difference in the two?
Spam is annoying.
Spam is annoying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
and delicious at the same time.
I think actually, I just had it yesterday. So spam and mac salad.
Spam and mac, yeah.
Yeah. Spam is annoying, and phishing is also annoying and malicious.
Yeah.
Right? So phishing is just like it sounds. It's somebody throws the hook out there through an email and wants you to take the bait. So they'll send something that looks very familiar to you. It looks common.
We get them at the university all the time.
Right.
Probably a couple times a month.
Right. And, it could say, my name at university, but if you look carefully, the V and the I are turned around or something, right? So it's really subtle. A lot of the wording is just subtly off a little bit. The grammar doesn't quite make sense. And so there's always little clues embedded or hidden in there, which allow them to send that phishing attempt out. But it's familiar enough that people click on it, unfortunately, and then commit the full phishing scheme.
What will happen after a company got caught on phishing or those phishing emails? What is the end result on that? What is the problem the company may have if they got caught on those phishing?
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of phishing starts out kind of like, hey, go get some gift cards, right? I'll run to the store and I'll get some gift cards.
I had that happen to me here. Yeah.
And then I'll stare at the boss and he'll blankly, look at me and wonder why I just gave him gift cards. Right? So there's those kind of phishing attempts, right? Those require a little manual intervention. And then there's the more malicious and faster phishing attempts. They'll come into you, you'll click on a file, you open a file. It'll immediately ask you to log in to some other product and you put in your username and password. And the moment you do that, it has your username and password. And then it starts to hammer away or apply it to other programs, other websites, other bank accounts. It really goes after you.
Yeah. Yes. I saw a TV show one time. A guy was trying to break into a prison in their tech area, and he took a bunch of thumb drives, and he made it look like it was something you wanted to have on the thumb drive. I forgot what it was, but he put hundreds of them and threw them all over the parking lot of the prison. So when the employees pulled in, they see these on the ground, they pick them up, and they walk inside. What's the first thing to do?
Plug it
in the computer, and it downloads the virus onto the computer, and it gives them access.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful on this stuff.
Yeah.
You can't just throw anything in your computer.
Yeah. Yeah, if it seems off, it's generally off
Yeah.
for a reason, right?
Yeah.
The thumb drive one is pretty common. It's what people do for penetration testing. That's one of the steps they'll do. People, social engineering, they'll try to call in and get information. Slowly but surely, they'll get more and more and more information. They'll get further into that environment so they can start stealing the data.
Interesting.
What's the information? Once you had this hacker inside the system, can you detect them? Your company can detect them? They can do a audit and find out, oh, you had a virus here.
Yeah. So if they have the proper software and the proper solution in place, yes, you can detect it. If they don't, you have to put a lot of solutions in place to be able to detect it, and it's kind of after the fact. And it could take a while to do it. That's where a lot of times the best thing to do is, unfortunately, shut down. Get it to stop.
Yeah.
Stop immediately and then build your way back up.
I've seen strategies where companies and sometimes the federal government or something, if there's information that people really want, they'll spend a lot of time trying to get in or whatever. Sometimes you build empty houses and let them run around in the house. It's like you let them in a certain area knowing that it can get them nothing.
Right.
So, I mean, there's honeypot strategies like that where you kind of fool them into going over here, going over there. But most small business owners, we don't have that type of data to protect.
That costs quite a bit of money.
Yeah. If I'm a small country, you probably got to protect yourself, But.
Yeah, but, on a good example, it's a large corporation, but Colonial Oil, right, pipe and gas, they ended up paying ransomware. So they let somebody in there, but it runs so rampant, you really cannot control how rampant it runs until you shut everything down to get it to stop, and then you got to rebuild.
Okay.
Right.
Here's another question. What's a VPN?
Virtual private network.
Virtual private network. Yep. What do you need one of those?
Most people, I should say all people, need them and should use them more often. A lot of people connect from their house or connect from a remote location, and they just connect. They're used to just connecting to their work. Right? So I'll connect to university remotely. And without the proper scenario, VPN or some kind of authentication, then I'm just going straight into the university. Right? So there's no barrier like a firewall. There's no barrier to prevent somebody from getting in. That's why you have multi-factor, which is where you get another pop-up, right? Which allows you to be the actual authority to say, yeah, this is me and I want to connect. And then the VPN is a virtual, just like it sounds, and I'll try to explain it, but a virtual private network.
Okay.
It's encrypted. It's a strict tunnel that's just for you and what you're trying to connect to.
Gotcha.
Right? So imagine, if you will, you can drive over the tunnel, you can drive over the bridge, but underneath is a tunnel that nobody can get into except you. Right? And that's what that tunnel comes out to be.
Yeah.
So it's a way more secure connection to what you need to access.
I'm sure you've seen some horror stories with, keeping the names of the innocent out of it. Is there any ones you can share to say, here's why you should have a server, here's why a firewall is important, or here's a VPN story from hell, right?
Yeah.
This is why you should consider getting
like the VPN from hell.
VPN from hell. I'm going to make some t-shirts. VPN from hell.
Yeah.
Sounds aggressive. Sounds very aggressive. I have a lot of stories. I won't share many, but like I said previously, most of the issues stem from training.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we had someone probably about 2 weeks ago, and his name was Mike. No, I'm just kidding.
It was me. It was me.
It was an issue where this person called and said, "Hey, look, I got an email. I clicked on it, and then it was an invoice, and they asked, what's the status of the invoice? Well, I clicked on it, and then I got a phone call, and they called me and they said they need access to my machine to be able to look at the invoice and take care of the invoice that they sent me." And okay,
Did you give them access?
so
Of course.
this person did.
Exactly.
And this comes down to training. This
Yeah.
is after the fact, right? By then,
They're already in.
sorry, you better shut down. Like, shut everything down and get it to stop. And the one issue we heard was, well, don't you have things in place that could stop that? Training.
Yeah.
It really does boil down to training.
You
No matter how
can't
much you
stop
put in
somebody from giving somebody their password besides through training, right?
there. Right.
I mean-
And she didn't.
Yeah.
This person did not give them passwords or anything, but because they got access to the machine, I think within 5 minutes they started, exporting files from
Yeah.
the machine. They didn't get anything, right? But this is luckily a good scenario. But this is what I'm trying to say is when you don't have the training in place and this person has been trained, it doesn't mean that they're still going to follow through. So
Yeah.
you have to continue with the training throughout any business environment.
Absolutely.
The training
I think
has to keep going.
that's pretty normal. Years ago, this is probably 20 years ago, in my business, we had an email server, and we used to send out HTML emails from the server, right? And so we started hosting email accounts. We had 3 kind of family businesses together, and we served all the emails for the company. Right up until one day I come in the morning, and the computer is like, I can hear the fans on. It's just going nuts, right? I turn the screen on, and I see just a slew of emails going out. Just somebody had hacked the system, and they had published our IP address online to other hackers, and everybody was sending spam through our server. And there was like 15,000 messages a minute going through it or something like that. The only thing we could do was unplug it. That's all we could do. We couldn't stop it. I mean, it was too much.
Yeah, so phishing can steal those passwords and allow people in, but a lot of this boils down to, and we're the bad guys, we'll be the bad guys, is passwords.
Yep.
When we try to make people or tell them to change a password and make it very complicated, the hemming and the hawing, there is a reason, and it starts with the password.
So we shouldn't give our password as password, right?
Right.
Is that
Or
correct?
1, 2, 3,
Or
4,
1, 2,
5.
hola.
Yeah, that makes it a little
I'm
more
Mexican here.
Yeah. So they actually recommend using passphrases.
Passphrases.
So creating common sentences is a lot more secure than just a short.
I like to
really
ride my
random
bike at
password.
night
Yep.
in the rain.
Yep. I love to go to Disneyland on weekends. That's a very long password.
That's
and it
hard
would
to
take-
guess.
Yep.
Oh, I had
It's
better.
easy to remember, though.
Yeah, happy hour near me.
There you go. There you go. Although it might be too common for you.
Yeah,
It
might
be easy to steal.
somebody might guess that one, Carlos.
Oh, yeah. It's coming back. We had a person coming to the chamber, and he has a business, and he comes and say, look, I apply for a loan, and I don't have the money, but they are requiring me my bank account information to transfer the money. So I said, let me look at it. And there you go. Phishing company. We call them up. It's a telemarketing company.
Fake company.
Yeah,
really
fake
sad.
company. So that's why training, I agree with you, it's very important. So the entrepreneur, they are so busy doing business, especially at this time coming out from the COVID-19 pandemic. But people need to understand that today market is digital, period.
Yeah.
No more newspaper, no more magazines, no more face-to-face meeting. Everything is digital. Everything, and that is the core of your business because it's your database, your customer information. Everything is there. So you need to keep that for for compliance, but also to be secure your business that you will keep it safe.
Yeah.
That's why we need companies like yours.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Data is gold.
So as far as small business owners are
I
concerned,
like that. Data
is gold.
Yes,
It's
that's
true.
the truth.
It's true. Well, I mean, look at what we give to Facebook every day. right?
Yeah,
a
those
lot of data.
companies aren't the most wealthy in the world for their
for no
pictures
reason.
and your pictures that you post.
It's not their interface that we
Yeah.
love so much.
TikTok,
right? Yeah.
right? All these companies, they make money on data.
It's all data. Absolutely. So for if you were to meet a small business owner, you're going out to lunch and somebody goes, "Oh, you're an IT guy? This is great.
Yeah.
We probably need some IT," because they don't know what they don't have, right? What 3 top things would you recommend to every small business owner?
I would recommend the protection.
Okay.
Right. Some sort of workstation protection if you have a server, right?
Whether is that a firewall or is that you're talking antivirus,
malware? It's hard to separate the two in this instance, but it would have to be firewall and antivirus or endpoint protection. The next would be backups.
Okay.
Right? Worst case scenario, ransomware will run rampant, and in scenarios they can remove your backups as well. But if they're set up properly, you still have your backups, so you're not totally out of business.
Yeah.
Right. That's the one that kind of saves all, catch all. And the top would be the training.
Okay.
So just make sure that people understand what they're doing the business, with the business. In the end, as a small business owner, you want that training. You want people to love what they do, but respect the data that's at that environment.
And also let me point out that we had a problem in the past with our backup. So we had a system that back up our documents. So when we had a problem, we had access to those files. It's like physically you had files here and there and there. You don't know the name of the files, the structure, where to go, who is HR, what is accountant, what is customer service. So it's not only backup. It's a whole structure that you had in place to keep it safe.
It could be naming protocols for your files, archival, do you do it per month? Do you do it per job? Do you do it per invoice number? Do you do it per... I mean, all this stuff has considerations with IT and being able to find stuff.
Right. And that's one of the things that we take pride in is, as an IT company, cybersecurity company, we believe everyone should be integrated into the environment, into the business. That way they understand the structure as being explained here. It's a holistic approach. You have to understand top to bottom how the business operates. So you're not only just an expense or an IT company, but you're part of that company. You interoperate with everyone within that environment.
Which is great, yeah.
Today, cybersecurity is the word out there, but many people don't understand cybersecurity. They believe it. It's only to have secure my place, or it's cameras outside my home, or things like that. So can you explain a little bit to our audience what is very important cybersecurity overall?
So cybersecurity is a really loose term. There are several definitions that you'll find. One of the ones that I like is, I can't remember the name of the federal agency, but it is basically saying that cybersecurity is protection overall using artistry. And I'm like, artistry? Okay, that makes sense. Because what you're doing is you're protecting everything. You're watching everything. You're monitoring. You're making sure that everybody's doing what they're doing. But the artistry is you have to know how to apply it. You have to be able to create, right? Like a painter, you have to be able to apply it where it's appropriate. You have to have the right solutions. So that's where the artistry comes in. So cybersecurity to me is that you're protecting the entire environment, doing everything you can, which is appropriate, but applying it the proper ways, being creative with it, painting your picture work to be a little different with that.
And also updates all the time, because people say, oh, already set up. I'm set up for 20 years. It's not true.
No.
It's
There's
every
maintenance.
day maintenance.
It's like oil changes on a car.
Yeah. And it's just like you said with backups. If you're not doing your job, you go to restore backup and it doesn't work and you haven't tested it, you're out.
Yes.
I've had that problem. I've had a backup system and then I tried to restore from the backup and it's like, it's not working. We spent all this money and we didn't test it to see if it would work. There's nothing worse than that. Then you think you're protected and then, that's why it makes sense hiring an IT company.
Yeah.
So David, how does a small business owner find you? What's the easiest way to access you and your company?
Sure. So our website is redpandasystems.com. You can call our local number at 702-553-2500, or you can reach out to me personally anytime. I'm very accessible. It's dave@redpandasystems.com, or you can reach us all by emailing support@redpandasystems.com. redpandasystem.
Pandasystem.com. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for being on the show with us today. Thank you, Carlos, for being here again today. An important topic that a lot of small business owners are falling down in, I will say, because every time I've ever asked them, they're like, you get the deer in the headlights look. And, David, if we can help them out a little bit, that would be just excellent to do.
Here to help.
So, thank you.
Here to help.
Well, thank you again for being part of our Biz Life podcast. Once again, we're broadcasting today from the Small Business Education Program studios in Las Vegas, Nevada at UNR Extension. And thank you, and go do something great in your business today.